can we please just appreciate that I'm actually getting a TBR up for a readathon before it starts? It's in time! This may be a first. Hi everyone, it's Jim. Welcome back to my channel. How are you all? I hope you're all not too shabby. This is my Nonfiction November TBR, which I'm very excited about. It is a month-long readathon by Olive from Book Olive, and I think Natalie from A Curious Reader is also co-hosting. Not 100% on that, as usual, a bit unprepared. But I'm excited because, once again, I haven't read much non-fiction this year, so the problem is that when I get to this month, I just want to read all my non-fiction books, and that isn't possible. But I currently have, I think, 32 or 33 non-fiction books on my TBR, and I'd like to get that down to 25, so I think that's doable. Yes, I think it's realistic. And there are 4 kind of buzzword themes that you can go with and try and interpret however you like, or you can just read whatever the hell you want. And I have actually this year managed to find books that I really wanted to read that fit the words, so that's very exciting. So the words are notes, the words are time, movement, buzz, and discovery. Woohoo! So, I did not organise these books. That was not clever. Hold on. Okay, now I've actually sorted my shizzle out. So in terms of the first word thing, time, I have an audiobook called The Shapeless Unease, My Year of Not Sleeping by Samantha Harvey, because I am an insomniac and I feel for anyone that has that struggle, and I think because it has the word year in the title, that can count, and it's really short, and I've got the audiobook and she's a very soothing voice, so that's probably what I'll be listening to when I can't sleep one night. And then in terms of physical books, I have The Life of Charlotte Bronte by Elizabeth Gaskell, which is exciting because it's like extending October into Nonfiction November. Double whammy! And because it's the life, I kind of think it's time, because obviously Gaskell very sadly outlived Charlotte Bronte, so it does compound everything from her birth to her death, and it's just interesting to look at it from the perspective of a Victorian who actually knew her personally, and if that will change how she is perceived or presented compared to a modern day perspective of her life. And then I also have Inside This Place, Not Of It, Narratives from Women's Prisons, because when you go to prison, you do time. You see what I did there? I thought it was quite clever, personally. And this is a book I'm sure I've put in other TBRs before. It is looking at individual women's stories, at 11 or 13 of them or something. I had that quite hard going, but I can just read one, put it down, and then read something a bit more chill. And it's something that, even though it's about American prisons, I'm still very interested in, because I think they're sort of not considered very often. I think most people think of men when you think of prisons, and there are obviously issues that happen in women's prisons that are really specific to them and that situation. So this is something that I hope to at least start, I'm going to say. And the other book I have is Childhood, which is the Copenhagen Trilogy first instalment by Tove Ditlevsen. I'm sure there's a much better Danish way of saying that, but it's a time in her life. It's looking at a specific part of her life, so I think that kind of ties into time. I really like memoirs. It's really short. I think I'm going to love this book. I think this is going to be a book of the year. I have a prediction for this, but I need to actually read it. And then moving on to movement, I have one book, so that is They Can't Kill Us All, The Story of Black Lives Matter by Wesley Lowry, because Black Lives Matter is a movement. There you go. And this can also count for buzz, because there was like a media buzz and frenzy, because that's what he's talking about as a journalist who was there when Michael Brown was murdered and Ferguson, and really saw on the ground the uprising and formation of Black Lives Matter. I think this is going to be a really powerful read, and this, like quite a few others, is a book that I put on my History Challenge TBR I didn't get to, so I would really like to read this and return to the library. And I think it's quite fast paced because of the subject matter and because he's a journalist, so I'm hoping for some good writing here. And then another book that also counts for a movement is Afropean, Notes from Black Europe by Johnny Pitts, because it's the idea of the Black and African diaspora who have made communities throughout Europe. So they have migrated and found a new home, and he goes from Paris and ends up in Portugal, and just explores the different black communities in each European country that he visits, and it just sounded really interesting, something that again I've never really thought about and I know nothing about. And I believe he is actually Yorkshirean, which is very exciting because a lot of my family are from Yorkshire, so I might in my head be reading in a Yorkshire accent, which would be fun. And then moving on to Discovery, we have Black Tudors, The Untold Story, because she is revealing, by Miranda Kaufman. Miranda is revealing and discovering these Black Tudors who lived in Britain in that period, and I think it's very much an untold story. Literally is in the subtitle, Jenny. Wow, that was clever. But I just really want to read this. I heard a bit about this on a podcast and it sounded great. I really want someone to do this for the Victorian period, but I know it's really hard to learn about Black Victorians because there were lots of censuses at the time, but they did not record race, sadly. So that's a shame. But anyway, this is very high on my list. There is an audiobook of this on Script, so if it's getting towards the end of the month and I still haven't read it, I might listen to it there. But this has pictures and stuff. Look. Wait, is that shiny? How exciting. I always like it when there's some kind of portrait or something of the people that they're talking about. So there's that one. And then another one about Discovery is Last Witnesses, Unchildlike Stories by Svetlana Alexievich, something like that. Basically, she in the late 70s started doing interviews with people who had lived in the Soviet Union during the Second World War as children, and asked them what it was like to grow up during that time and also live through the aftermath and the trauma of that in the Soviet Union. So I think because, again, she's discovering these people's stories, that sort of counts, and it's a book that I'm interested in because when I learn about World War II, when I have learned about it, it's again always about the UK or the closer European countries like France or Germany, so I will be interested to learn about country, and I know nothing about how it affected them during World War II, and also to see it through a child's perspective as well. I think it's something that's been really special. And I have To Know Proud by Her as well, but I was tossing it up between the two, and I just kind of was feeling this one a bit more, especially because it's such short chapters, if you want to call them that. Each story is 2 to 4 pages, so I think that's going to make me read it quicker. So there we go, that one. And then just some randomers that I guess you could fit into other ones. Oh, I guess this could be a movement one as well. This is The Optician of Lampedusa by Emma Jane Kirkby. Kirby. Don't know why I wanted to say it like that, but I did. And it is a journalist who has particularly reported on the refugee crisis and the huge migration that has been happening to Europe. And this is her telling the story of a man that she met in, I presume, Lampedusa. And that's all I know, but I'm always really interested in refugee stories, and again, it's short, that's good. So I'm excited to read that. And then I have a couple of big books that are too far away. There we go. So this is Women Who Read Are Dangerous, and it's a very exciting book because it has beautiful pictures. I mean, it's so pretty. Oh wait, that's not very exciting one. So that each chapter is separated into a kind of readers. You have passionate readers and you have blessed readers, etc. So I think it will just be a joy, and I'll probably learn a little bit about history, so that is always nice. And then last but not least, the physical books is Good Night Stories for Rebel Girls, 100 Immigrant Women Who Changed the World by Elena Favilli. And I am really happy about this. I have been really good, and I've not flicked through this because I just want to discover the pictures as I go along and the women who are in this as I go along, apart from all the ones that are obviously on the front. And I'm just so happy and excited to see that it's 100 immigrant women. That's really positive, and it's sunshine yellow. It's going to be nice light relief when I'm reading all these heavy hitting books about war or Black history, I don't know, but yeah, I'm really excited, and I'm glad there are so many Black history books actually, because I sort of get taken over by October, but October in the UK is actually Black History Month, so it's kind of nice for me to extend that into November, because we should always be reading books by Black authors and about Black history. So that is all the physical books I want to read, and then I have some audiobooks too. I read a lot of audiobooks, but I do want to also, read some fiction throughout the month as well, so I've just picked a few. So apart from The Restless Unease, I also have What My Mother and I Don't Talk About, 15 Writers Break the Silence, which is obviously by 15 different authors, and it sounds quite self-explanatory. It's sort of them, I don't think it's them having a conversation to their mother, or just I think it's just them writing an essay about them, reflecting on their relationships with their mothers and what is and isn't off bounds. Then I have Eloquent Rage. I think the subtitle is something like A Black Woman Realises Her Superpower by Brittany Cooper, who I think is quite a renowned feminist in America, but I haven't really heard of her. But it's basically her reflecting on the stereotype of the angry black woman and saying that has been really simplified, and that actually there is real power there that can be harnessed to make a change. And it's her, I think, trying to reclaim it and make it a positive not stereotype, but just way to be, I suppose, and how anger doesn't have to be a bad feeling or a bad representation of what you feel towards certain issues. So that will be interesting, and all of these audiobooks are short as well, so I'll get through them in a day because I read on double speed like a maniac and freak everyone else out whenever they hear me listening to a book really fast. So then I also want to listen to The Life and Writings of Benjamin Zephaniah, who is obviously writing his memoir. It's really, I think, about growing up black in Britain, also about all the travels he's done, all of the activism he's done. He's very politically engaged, and also how he wanted to spread poetry and accessibility of poetry to people who didn't read especially, and I think he's an amazing individual and so talented, and I'm really expecting the writing to be phenomenal for this book. I'm very excited. I also want to listen to Hunger by Roxane Gay. It's a lot of memoirs here, but I really like listening to memoirs, especially if they're read by the author, unless it's Lily Allen. That book sounded so dull when she read it, my goodness. Anyway, this is a reflection of her relationship with food, I suppose, and her body, and what it means to be overweight in America, or just generally to be a woman who is overweight in the world, and how you're seen less the more overweight you are. And it's a memoir, but in a very personal, intimate way, and it looks at her childhood, her teens and her 20s. And I've read her book Bad Feminist before, but this is a very different subject matter, but I loved her writing, and I think I'm also going to love this book. I think it's going to be really powerful. Another memoir, Sorry Not Sorry, is The Louder I Will Sing by Lee Lawrence, who is writing about the aftermath as when his mother was shot and paralysed by the police in Brixton when they raided his house, and how they never were reprimanded for it. And it's about the aftermath of him having to care for his mother, of the race riots that were started because the news misreported that she had actually died when she hadn't, and also just about him trying to get justice from the police and for them to recognise their mistakes. So even though it happened in the 80s, it covers, it sounds like, quite a lot of time, and I think it's just a very relevant subject matter now, especially, so this will be a great moving read, I think. And then last but not least, I have So You've Been Publicly Shamed by Jon Ronson, because I haven't read any Jon Ronson, but I've heard so many good things, and it's particularly about this book where he goes to meet people who have been publicly shamed. I think they're not celebrities, I think they're just like your regular Joe who said something wrong in a tweet or a joke that came off badly and have been covered by the news, or there's just been a general frenzy of media attention that meant that they, I suppose, what we would now say, got cancelled or lost their job or whatever it is. And it's him looking at the power of shame, I think, and public shame specifically, and the psychology around that. So I am just really interested. I hope I enjoy it. It's one of those very hyped books, so I hope it doesn't let me down. But there we go. And it sounds like a lot, but I actually think I could read a lot of these because most of them are short. I haven't got any big chunks, as I really avoided that this year. Maybe next year I'll actually read some longer books that are non-fiction, but I can't wait. Are you joining in? What would you like to read for Nonfiction November? Even if it's just one book, I'd love to hear. And have you read any of these books? Are there any that you think I should prioritise? Let me know in the comments, please and thank you. And I will see you soon, more Bookish Shenanigans. Bye!